So meet Sui Park, the instigator of the hashtag #CancelColbert. And she's quite clear about one thing, that she's never claimed to be an educator.
And I've never claimed to be like an educator. I'm an activist, and I think...
However, when she was sending a question to President Obama, she obviously felt that #activist might sound, well, kind of pathetic. I wonder if there's a way that she could make her sound more important.
Hi, I'm Sui Park, and I'm from Chicago, Illinois. A month ago, I started the hashtag #NotYourAsianSidekick that sparked a global conversation for and by Asian American women. I'm an activist, an educator, and a writer.
Oh, that's just epic.
And I've never claimed to be like an educator. I'm an activist, an educator, and a writer.
So Sui is one of those precious social justice warrior flowers, always so hair-triggered to be outraged at the most trivial of things, and always so rational.
And not to shift it to another group, is that we need to understand how genocide and slavery and Orientalism all work together to uphold white supremacy. And how genocide and slavery and Orientalism all work together to uphold white supremacy.
Right.
And so that's really kind of the way that I understand my work, which is why a lot of my work isn't essentially with these mainstream Asian American activist groups. Not Your Asian Sidekick was actually not a call for Asian American visibility, for Asian American celebration. It was actually a call to not be a sidekick to white supremacy.
Oh yeah, there's a great market out there for the professional victims, giving keynote talks at places like Purdue University about their first world problems and getting their articles into places like Time magazine. But I'll come to those shortly. Their principal role in this was a keyboard social justice warrior, revolutionizing the world, one Me Too keystroke at a time. She's best known for being the instigator of the hashtag #CancelColbert, and she really believes in this online activism stuff, making a difference, as can be seen in this tweet here of yawn, another online petition about me. Yes, it's clear that she thinks that this hashtag activism about first world problems can change the world, as long as the online activism isn't about her racism or sexism or whatever. But yes, Sui, claiming that people cannot understand things based solely on their skin colour or their sex is what we call racism and sexism.
Especially as a white man, I don't expect you to be able to understand what people of color are actually saying.
So understand, Sui, that when you look in a mirror, that the person looking back at you is what a sexist and a racist looks like. And then you've got to follow that up with a expert, petulant and dishonest display.
You just called my opinion stupid. That's incredibly unproductive. And I don't think I'm going to enact the labor of having to explain to you why that's incredibly offensive and patronizing.
Explain.
I just told you I wouldn't enact that labor.
Okay, thanks for being with us, Sui.
Where she reports this interview, where she said that the interviewer couldn't understand things because of his skin colour and his gender, like this. In case anyone thought I was censoring Colbert, please know that I was just talked down to, muted and silenced by Josh Zepps at Huffington Post Live. To which Zepps actually told it like it actually happened. Ah, the righteousness of professional umbrage takers. Sui Park wasn't muted or silenced. I invited her to explain herself, and she declined. At which point Sui really threw her toys out of the pram and just took the high road with "You are so pathetic" at Josh Zepps. But in case you were wondering what silencing tactics actually look like, just see how feminists deal with an opposing viewpoint.
It's my hope that as a result of my talk, a few of you may decide to, okay, you know, it's the signature of a totalitarian ideology to attempt to quash dissent. So every time you interrupt, you're merely showing your repressive tendencies. You're not showing anything about your virtue. Okay, let's forget it. So you think this is a victory? Yeah, why are you so frightened of hearing an opinion different from your own?
And you'll be happy to know that Anita Sarkeesian popped up to suggest that the backlash was nothing to do with the stupidity of what she said or the racism or the sexist things that she said. No, it was entirely because she was a woman. Oh, professional victims of the world unite. Interestingly, the article she links to describes the above interview like this. Her treatment on Huffington Post Live by Josh Zepps illustrates how the mainstream media decorously could not restrain the impulse to publicly punish and shame a disobedient woman of colour. However, other than the article being hilariously over the top, it is linked to a screenshot of a petition, which looks curiously like a White House petition. And the curious thing is, though, I can find no such petition on the White House, and my suspicions are further aroused by the fact that by the time this very low resolution screenshot was taken, only one person had signed the petition. I mean, let's be real, a natural next phase in the lifestyle of these professional victims, if they can't actually get a real threat narrative going, is just going to be to invent one wholesale. However, even if the petition was 100% legit, let's just remind ourselves of some of the other online petitions of the White House, like for Obama to do the hokey pokey or for the US government to build a Death Star. The latter receiving some 30,000 signatures and actually got an official and very funny response. But oh noes, when there's a petition with just one signature to deport Sui Park and remove her First Amendment rights, this is actually a real threat against women, and that it's therefore entirely reasonable for these professional victims to lose their shit. Now, to a degree, she may have a point about this hashtag activism changing the world, but probably not in the way that she thinks. In this interview here, this is the pertinent bit.
Priority.
Wow. It's so funny because I feel like there's this new change happening with new media where social groups that haven't necessarily had a voice ever before now have these platforms.
Yes, giving a voice to affluent middle-class women in their 20s still living with their moms.
1 second, my mom just came home.
Who need something to be neurotic about so they can tweet about their therapy and how they're soon to be getting a therapy animal. Oh my God, really? She's getting a therapy animal and she has the gall to call anyone else privileged. I mean, I can see the architects on the internet now gently sobbing in a moody basement somewhere. We invented the internet to make society a better place through communication of information. We never, in our most hideous nightmares, thought it would be used by the most whiny and self-righteous losers on the planet to unite in the mother of all outraged about nothing pity parties. We just didn't know. But occasionally these whiners do hit the big time. Well, for 15 or so minutes anyway. But for all of the wrong reasons. For instance, Sui Park got her opinion into Time magazine. An interesting article to be sure, especially if you do a word analysis on it and you find that the most used word in the entire article is white, followed in second place by racism, satire and racist, and in third place with you people anti-liberals. But maybe the star sentence in the whole thing is, these white liberals are not mad that we pointed out racism. They are mad that they now have to consider the ways in which they may be racist. Oh, sweet monument to passive-aggressive irony, berating people for being racist in the very sentence where you are judging people solely on their skin colour. Seriously, just Google cancel Colbert or Sui Park and you'll get pages and pages of this stuff. The amazing thing is, though, that it gets as much support as it does with these utterly vacuous arguments. Now let me just say, for those people with no discernible skill or talent, for them, playing the professional victim is probably the best option they have available to them. In that the people who really aren't paying that much attention, to them all they see is someone saying that I'm being victimized by an evil majority. And these folks immediately put it into the David versus Goliath category and root for the underdog. Thankfully, it's not a long-term winning strategy, and as time goes on, it becomes clearer and clearer that this is actually more the boy who cried wolf, or maybe more aptly, the professional victim who cried sexism and racism over their first world problems. And yeah, sure, all of this does wonders for the credibility of real victims of sexism and racism. But the vapidity of these morons, I mean, they think that this is a good argument for sexism.
Men occupying the highest ranks in virtually every industry in the world.
But then just immediately gloss over the fact that men also make up 90% of the prison population. I mean, I guess that just must mean that the entire criminal justice system is sexist against men. I mean, how else could you explain it? Yes, these are exactly the sorts of sexual partitionings you would expect in a fair but sexually dimorphic species. That is, if you want to claim sexism, you've got to demonstrate sexism. And no matter how many times you bounce up and down and say, look, there's inequality of outcome, that simply doesn't cut it as evidence of sexism. Because in a sexually dimorphic species, even when there is equality of opportunity, you do not necessarily expect equality of outcome. Or the vacuous nature of Sui Park claiming that everyone else is privileged. I mean, can you imagine her outrage if she was told to check her yellow privilege because Asians are universally the best paid demographic in America? And actually, yes, they are, earning on average twice as much as blacks. Maybe you need a new hashtag, Sui. So maybe something along the lines of your better paid Asian sidekick, especially when you're talking about privilege with a backdrop of immensely well-stacked fine china teacups. But fundamentally, yes, saying check your yellow woman privilege is dismissive and racist for exactly the same reasons that this is dismissive and racist.
Especially as a white man, I don't expect you to be able to understand what people of color are actually saying.
Now let me say this in plain language so there can be absolutely no ambiguity. Sui Park is not only a racist and a sexist, I think we've covered that already, but also a world-class hypocrite. I mean, we've already seen how she dismisses other people's online activity as yawn, but thinks that her hashtag activism is going to change the world. In her own words, this is not reform, this is revolution. Oh, sweet mother of delusion of grandeur. But back to the hypocrisy. You will remember her outrage when someone just called her opinion stupid.
No one's minimalizing your experiences. No one's minimalizing your right to have an opinion. It's just a stupid opinion. I mean, it's a misunderstanding of what satire is.
You just called
It's a
my opinion
misunderstanding of what irony is.
stupid. You just called my opinion stupid. That's incredibly unproductive. And I don't think I'm going to enact the labor of having to explain to you why that's incredibly offensive and patronizing.
Yes, that's incredibly patronizing and offensive to call someone's opinion stupid. It's demeaning and so forth. Unless, of course, you're Sui Park, then it's perfectly acceptable for you to call other people's questions stupid. When white men ask me stupid questions, I zap them into trolls and put them in my garden. Sui, tell us what you think of that argument.
You just called my opinion stupid. That's incredibly unproductive. And I don't think I'm going to enact the labor of having to explain to you why that's incredibly offensive and patronizing.
But for me, the one that sealed the deal that she's just formally unplugged from reality was in her interview with Salon. And it went like this. Interviewer, what do you think is the best way to work with white people to get them on our side? Sui, I don't want them on our side. You don't want them on your side? This is not reform, this is revolution. I'm not quite sure what you've got in mind here, Sui. A society free of racism where absolutely everyone is equal, apart from the white people. Really, when you were giving that keynote talk at Purdue University at the Conference on Diversity.
I'm an activist, an educator, and a writer, and this spring I'll be traveling to all different colleges in the US to connect with students.
I'm just curious, did you hang a sign outside saying, "Whites not welcome"?
I think that base building and dialogue are necessary in continuing to build an inclusive movement.
But this one really knocks the whole thing out of the ballpark in that she's on a whole new level of batshit crazy. Yes, because I think it's important. A lot of white America and so-called liberal people of colour, along with conservatives, ask, do I understand context? And that's part of wanting to completely humanise the oppressor. To see the white man as always reasonable, always pure, always deliberate, always complex, and always innocent. And to see the woman of colour as literal. Holy crap, woman, what planet are you on? Always see the white man as reasonable.
Tide goes in, tide goes out. Never a miscommunication. You can't explain that.
always see the white man as reasonable.
I know the human being and fish can coexist peacefully.
Always pure, always innocent.
It appears that there were not weapons of mass destruction there.
You said you knew where they were.
I did not.
We know where they are. They're in the area around Tikrit and Baghdad and...
What planet are you on? Here on planet Earth, we judge arguments based on their merits, and we call those who judge arguments based on skin colour racists. Because it's a stupid way of judging if an argument is valid or not. Nor do we judge arguments on privilege.
Because they live in white privilege.
Yeah.
And they live like so deeply in white privilege that they can't get their asses out of it.
This woman is a billionaire. She's as privileged as they come. But bizarrely, when she does something stupid, outrageously stupid, we don't judge her actions based on the fact that she's a woman. Or that she's rich and privileged and entitled. We judge her actions based on their merits, or in this case, the lack of them.
When I was growing up, I was called Bossy.
Yes, I was called Bossy when I was a kid, and now I'm a billionaire and one of the most powerful women in the world. So let's get more women involved in leadership by banning the word bossy. And this man is a billionaire and as privileged and white as they come. But according to Sui, we must regard the white man as always reasonable, always pure, always deliberate, always complex, always innocent. Bullshit! If he claims that vaccines cause autism, then his opinions are moronic.
You just called my opinion stupid.
Shush, Sui. And I don't say that because he's white, or a man, or a privileged billionaire. I say it because his arguments are demonstrably wrong. And only morons and social justice warriors would base an argument's validity, well, lack of it, on whether someone is poor or privileged. That is, only a moron would dismiss someone's opinion simply by saying, check your privilege, because it's a matter of supreme irrelevance to the validity of an argument. Just like saying someone's skin colour, or if you have girl parts or boy parts, is a matter of supreme irrelevance to the validity of an argument. But for Sui, it's of almost nuclear facepalm proportions, and you're supposedly trying to end racism in a revolution in which white people will not be welcome. Oh, and hashtag nuclear facepalm. Cancel Colbert, and she really believes in this online activism stuff, making a difference, as can be seen in this tweet here of yawn, another online petition about me. Yes, it's clear that she thinks that this hashtag activism about first world problems can change the world, as long as the online activism isn't about her racism or sexism or whatever. But yes, Sui, claiming that people cannot understand things based solely on their skin.
To another group is that we need to understand how genocide and slavery and Orientalism all work together to uphold white supremacy. Understand how genocide and slavery and Orientalism all work together to uphold white supremacy.
Right.
And so it's really kind of the way that I understand my work, which is why a lot of my work isn't essentially with these mainstream Asian American activist groups. Not Your Asian Sidekick was actually not a call for Asian American visibility, for Asian American celebration.
A month ago, I started the hashtag Not Your Asian Sidekick that sparked a global conversation for and by Asian American women. I'm an activist, an educator, and a writer.
Oh, that's just epic.
And I've never claimed to be like an educator.
I'm an activist, an educator, and a writer.
So Sui is one of those precious social justice warrior flowers, always so hair-triggered to be outraged at the most trivial of things, and always so rational.
and not just shift it. And it was actually a call to not be a sidekick to white supremacy.
Oh yeah, there's a great market out there for the professional victims, giving keynote talks at places like Purdue University about their first world problems and getting their articles into places like Time magazine. But I'll come to those shortly. Her principal role in this was a keyboard social justice warrior, revolutionizing the world one Me Too keystroke at a time. She's best known for being the instigator of the hashtag #CAT. So meet Sui Park, the instigator of the hashtag #CancelColbert. And she's quite clear about one thing, that she's never claimed to be an educator.
And I've never claimed to be like an educator. I'm an activist, and I think.
However, when she was sending a question to President Obama, she obviously felt that hashtag activist might sound, well, kind of pathetic. I wonder if there's a way that she could make her sound more important.
Hi, I'm Sui Park, and I'm from Chicago, Illinois.